Let us consider another example, example 5, drawing a bar chart or a Gantt chart with budgeted cost of activity. We are again presented with this information, but in this example, an additional column has been added, which is the total cost of the activity for the duration of the project. Activity A, which is the initiating activity, has a duration of 1 and a total cost of 150. Activity B, with a predecessor A, with a duration of 2 days, has a total activity cost of 600. This implies that day 1 of activity B is 300 and day 2 is another 300, making 600. Activity C, with a predecessor of B, with a duration of 4 days, has a total activity cost of 1200. And this also implies that day 1 of activity C is 300, day 2 is 300, day 3 is 300, and day 4 is another 300, adding up to 1200. Activity D, with a predecessor B, has a 6 days duration with activity cost of £900. This also implies that each day has an activity cost of £150, and cumulatively at the end of the duration of 6 days gives us £900. Activity E, with a predecessor C and a duration of 5 days, has a total activity cost of £250. This also implies that day 1 of activity E cost £50 times 5 days, giving us £250. Let us now draw our bar chart with the activity on the vertical axis and the durations on the horizontal axis. As usual, activity A with no predecessor starts from 0 with a duration of 1. Activity B with a predecessor A starts from the end of A with a duration of 2 days, giving us 3. Activity C commences at the end of activity B with a duration of 4, giving us 7. Activity D also starts from the end of activity B with a duration of 6 days, giving us 9. And lastly, activity E commences at the end of activity C with a duration of 5 days. So starting from 7 and giving us a total duration of 12. So the entire project would have a total duration of 12 days. Now, how did we arrive at the total cost of 3,100? We added cumulatively the total cost of all the activities. But let us see a breakdown of how this cumulative cost was added. So on day 1, the project attracted a cost of £150, a daily cost of £150 being the cost of activity A, and that is represented in the row of daily cost as 150 and also represented as 150 at the cumulative cost row. On day 2, activity B attracted a £300 cost, and that is represented in the row of the daily cost, and that adds up to 150 from day 1, making a 450 in the cumulative cost row. Day 3 also attracted £300 for activity B, and that is also represented in the daily cost section, adding up to the 450 from the previous day, making 750. Now, activity C attracted a cost of £300, and activity D also attracted a cost of £150, making 450 for that particular day. Now the 450 added to the previous cost of 750 gives us 1,200 at the close of day 4. On day 5, activity C has a £300 cost, and activity D has a £150 cost, making a £450. That £450 added to the previous day's cost of 1,200 gives us 1,650 pounds at the end of day 5. At the end of day 6, activity C attracts a £300 cost, and activity D also attracted a £150 cost, making a £450, which cumulatively added to the previous day's cost of 1,650 gives us a 2,100. By the end of day 7, activity C attracted another 300, whilst activity D attracted 150, adding up to 450, and this 450 added to the previous day's cost of 2,100, making a 2,550 by the end of day 7. At day 8, activity D attracted a 150 cost, and activity E attracted a £50 cost, adding up to £200. These £200 added cumulatively to the previous day's £2,550 cost, giving us £2,750. Day 9, activity D attracted a £150 cost, and activity E attracted a £50 cost, giving us a £200 cost. These £200 added to the £2,750 gives us £2,950 cumulative cost. Activity E by day 10 is the only activity available with a £50 cost, adding up to the previous day's £2,950 cost, making a £3,000 cost. Activity E on day 11 is another £50, making a cumulative cost of 3,050. And by the end of day 12, activity E attracted another £50 cost, adding up to the previous day's £350, £3,050, making £3,100. And that is how the daily costs have been tracked and cumulatively giving us £3,100 by the 12th day.